Hey, David here, and welcome to my channel. So let's talk about the Nikon ZR 1.1 update, which for me is mostly meaningless. Maybe not for you. So here's the thing. Let's go ahead and just run down the major stuff first of all. I know you guys have probably seen videos where they talk about this. You've got the time code, ability to time code. You've got the power button going into save mode or not save mode. You've got the auto exposure with red raw, and then you have the wonderful red exposure line, which I kind of call that I'll call it the LUT guy line, because that's kind of what I think it is. So let's go ahead and get into them one by one. First, the time code. That doesn't apply to me. I think that's a great update for some people that are doing multi-camera stuff. But for me, for the most part, a one-camera guy. So I don't see myself, at least right now, using it at all. I won't use it. Now, from an audio perspective, I don't know. There's a possibility. Whenever I'm doing audio, I use DaVinci Resolve. And with DaVinci Resolve, if I can do a hop to this camera, so for example, if I've got a separate mixer, which I have, and I'm doing all my recording inside of that mixer, I don't, and I have a hop that goes to here. All I have to have on here is a little wireless thing plugged in, and I'm good to go. And then in DaVinci Resolve, I just tell it to sync it up based on the waveform. It looks at the waveform in the camera that's attached to the actual footage, and it looks at the waveform that's in the recorded from the mixer. I've never had any problems with that. So right now, I will probably continue to do that. So I'm not going to be using that feature at all. Oh, real quick. Roker 35 millimeter. I'm shooting it around f4, something like that. And of course, I'm at ISO 800 red raw. Okay, now let's talk about the power thing. Now this thing is kind of mostly meaningless, but I'm definitely going to use it. And here's something that's kind of funny that I get a kick out of. It's in the wrench section. So in the menu, you go to the wrench, and it's, I don't know, it's definitely over halfway down, and it's called a power saver. It's the power button power saver. It calls it something like that. So in short, if you have that off, the power light stays on. If you have that on, the power light goes off. It's kind of funny, right? So I'll say it one more time. In the settings, if you have it on, that means the power light is going to go off. If you have in the settings off, that means the power light stays on as long as the camera's turned on. And right now I'm doing that, and I don't see any reason why I wouldn't do that, because how much power can it use, right? So I'm using that, so I might as well know, because there's been a couple times when I've had to open up the, kind of look at the screen to see if the power was still on. And is it inconvenient? Yeah, but I'm not losing sleep over it, and I don't do it all the time. But having that power button, I think that's it's useful. I mean, you don't have the option to do it, so I like that. Oh, also I should mention, I'm doing this on the shotgun. I'm on the MED10. I hope I'm getting that right. I think I'm getting it right now. I'm on the MED10 shotgun rack. There's not a lot of wind or anything here. I got an airplane going by right now. Of course, got to have airplane go. You know what, guys? For those of you that watch my channel, it's the same in California as it is in Florida. I hit record. I kid you not. An airplane is flying by. Can you hear it? That's hilarious. Because I've been out on jogs. I did a shoot the other day. Anyway, it didn't work when I did my micro movie yesterday, but it worked today. Okay, so now let's talk about auto exposure. Auto exposure for red raw is pretty much meaningless to me. I'm trying to think of when I would use it. I might use it right here in a just sit down talking head situation. I might use it for that because it's kind of just a no-brainer thing. You just sit down, turn the camera on, and go, and you don't have to worry about clipping anywhere or anything like that. Or I should say, you're not concerned about any clipping highlights or anything like that, because like right now, I know my face is properly exposed, but there's a sky up there that is slightly overexposed, and I don't know if I'll be able to save it or not, but I'm not really worried about it because it's so small, and I trust this camera enough. The light roll-off, highlight roll-off, I'm not really worried about that. But right now that is a little overexposed. So in an auto exposure situation, is it going to protect that and make my face dark, or is it going to expose for my face, which I think it would, based on my tests that I've done in the past with H.265 on the auto exposure. If you saw that video I did, that would probably be clipped. So anyway, I don't see myself doing it with red raw. I certainly don't see myself doing it in a movie situation because, like I've said before, and I'll just touch on it a bit here. When I'm shooting a movie, as the scene changes, like if I go into the shade or something like that, I want those nuances of the exposure. I don't want the exposure necessarily changing. Now, I agree, I get it. If you're on a gimbal and you're walking from the outside going into a building or something like that, yeah, then that auto exposure is going to have value. So I'm not going to say never, but for me, I don't know how much I use it. Now, on a separate note, or the same note, is with these manual lenses. Well, there's more planes. With these manual lenses, I have not been able to get it to work. Now, my experience with other cameras in the past, I can go to an auto aperture with a manual exposure lens. I'm sorry, I should say a manual focus, manual aperture lens, and I can have it change the f-stop. So for example, I could tell it that I want aperture priority, and so I can set the aperture on the lens, and the camera shouldn't care whether it's a manual lens because it doesn't need it, and it'll just change the exposure via the a shutter angle, or in that case, shutter speed, or maybe the ISO. And that, I won't get into that now, but that's a reason why ISO is good if you need it for exposure. If you're getting into the auto exposure stuff, then exposing with ISOs have a benefit. So I'm not going to go down that tangent. But for me, right now, I couldn't get it to work. So if I flipped it to full auto mode, and I wouldn't say the camera freezes up, but you have to actually go into the menus and change it. If you use the push buttons on the screen and go into auto mode in Red RAW on this camera, it like puts up a warning up, and you can't go back and change it. You have to go into the menu to change it. But I was able to put it into aperture priority, but then when I try to use it, it doesn't work. It wouldn't change the shutter angle. Okay, now something funny. I know that was a quick cut for you guys, but I actually paused because the garbage truck was going by. I don't know what it is. In California, is it not only queue airplanes, it also queues garbage trucks? Maybe I should wait for the lawn crew to come up, for the lawn crew to come out. Okay, so I don't have much else to say about the auto exposure for Red RAW. I don't know if I'm ever going to use it, but I'm not going to say never, never. But for me right now, this update is mostly meaningless from that perspective. Okay, now let's get to the red line on the waveform, which is pretty much more than mostly meaningless for me, because any of you that have been following my channel, I did a video a while back, and I don't remember the exact numbers. I think it was 77% or 78%. I said on the IRE is where I determined that the clipping point was. Remember, 180 is the threshold in zebras. And all this red line is doing for me, and I'll talk to you LUT guys. That's why I say this is the LUT thing. You LUT guys might love this, and I'll talk about that in a second. But for me, it hasn't really changed anything. It's just kind of confirmed it. So yeah, that red line is right at about 78, 77%. And also I should mention, it's also in the histogram, which is, if I remember, Nikon's press, if you want to say it, which is another thing. I'll get on this tangent later about, I don't know who did this update, Nikon or Red, but I believe they said it was on the waveform, but I don't think they acknowledge that it's also on the histogram. Now, in my Red weapon, and the Red Komodos are the same way, you have the traffic lights, but it's a histogram. So you have a histogram with the traffic lights and the goalposts, I think they call them, right, on each side. It's not a waveform, it's a histogram. And so also with this camera, that red line is also on the histogram. And so I think that's useful. But the downside for me is you don't really know you're there. If you've got some subtle stuff like a reflection off of a car or a rooftop or whatever it is, maybe it's not taking a huge part of the screen and you're not worried about it, you're not going to really see that with that red line in the waveform or the histogram. You know, you can have all these little things that are there and it doesn't start stacking up or lining up till, you know, you're not sure, you can't really see it. So for me, the zebra is much more, I don't know if efficient's the right word, it's much more usable for me, because that zebra, I can see everything. I can see, you know, every little clip, okay? So for me, it's pretty much meaningless. Now, let's talk about you LUT guys. I'm pretty sure I tested this before, and I can't say for certainty. You LUT guys that are watching this, let me know if I'm right about this. But in addition to putting the red line, they also locked in the Red RAW waveform exposure regardless of you putting up a LUT. Now I want to make sure you guys understand what I'm saying here, okay? Because I'm almost positive this happened. I know for zebras it was weird, And and I'm pretty sure it did the same thing with the waveform because it was based on the screen or whatever you want to call it. Before, if you had a LUT, which is view assist on this, right? Okay, you guys know about what I'm talking about, right? If you have view assist on, you've got the LUT. The waveform is still staying locked to the red raw limits, if that makes sense. So, before you couldn't do this, but now you can put a LUT on, and if you have that waveform up and you're overexposing, it's still overexposing, and you can tell because if you try to go way overexposed, it comes up, you know, it goes like this, right? And it hits that ceiling and it goes and it gets crushed. It doesn't do this, right? It doesn't go through it, right? So it comes up and it goes and gets crushed up. So it's doing that with view assist off and with view assist on. So all you guys that are selling the false color LUTs out there and stuff like that, man, I hope you made some money during that time, because there might be a lot of people that don't need that now. Oh, here comes the garbage truck. Let's take a break. So this gets back, now I want to get to what I was going to say about, I don't know who's doing this update, but I'll just say what I just said just briefly again. Waveform and histogram is clipping even if you have view assist on. So for some of you guys that like to look at the pretty picture on the screen for your LUT, I get that. But see, for me, here's the funny part. For me, if you're using the waveform, is it going to be the little thing in the lower left-hand? Where am I at? The lower left-hand corner of the screen? Are you going to, where are you going to put that? Or are you going to have the big one, right, that goes like this? And if you have the big one that goes like this, you don't have a pretty screen to look at with your pretty LUT on there. So anyway, I digress. So I'm glad they did that. So here's the question that I have for Nikon. The red line for me, and I'll also throw out, why didn't they put a line for the low? They've got a red line for the clip, but why didn't they put a whatever, purple line or something else, green, whatever you want to do for the blacks? Why would they not do both of those? I don't get that. And then the other thing is, why doesn't the red line light up when you hit it? Back to what I said before, if there's all those little ones that you can't really see, because remember I was saying you this, the crushing thing, right? That's kind of hard to see. I mean, you gotta, anyway. But if the red light came on, if that red line came on when you met it, now hey, now we're talking about something there, and I might have had a use for that, because that becomes a traffic light. You guys with me? So Nikon, now this is going to get to where I'm talking about next. I don't know who was involved with this update, because to me these updates were kind of like a Nikon thing. They weren't really a red thing, because if the red cinema guys are sitting there, unless there's a technical reason you can't do this, you know, like inside this camera, if it's not possible, okay, I get that. But if I'm a red guy sitting there, I'd be like, why don't we have that red line come on like a traffic light? And why don't we put the other one as well? Why are we just sticking a line there? That didn't happen, right? So I don't know if Nikon is communicating with the red team, or whether or not Nikon just has all the red documents, you know, and all the red secrets, and they're flipping through them saying, hey, look at this, 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 and they're still, you know, there's still a Nikon stills camera entity trying to fiddle with the cinema camera. So I really don't know what the partnership is, but I don't want to get myself in trouble here, but I question it now because I don't know why they did it this way. Like I said, unless there's a technical reason, you can't do it. The red line should have been a traffic light. It should have popped up when you hit it, and it was gone when you're done. Now that's an exposure tool as far as I'm concerned. Okay, there's one thing I forgot to mention also, the extended recording time. I think for H.265 is it 6 hours or something like that? That is absolutely meaningless to me. I mean, I can't imagine. I'm not saying it's not good. I'm sure for some people, I'm sure it's important, okay? Don't get me wrong, okay? But for me, I don't know if I've ever turned a camera on for 6 hours. I don't think I ever have. Okay, so that's it. You guys can leave. Hurry, run. This update, I'm back to what I'd really like to see is some legitimate focus tools. Like I said, please give me the focus squares. I don't know if that's a patented thing, but I would love to have focus squares. I'd love to have edge detect. Focus peaking is good. Don't get me wrong. I like it and I use it. But edge detect would be nice. But that's about it. I'm going to use the power button thing, the lighting up the power button. But that's pretty much the only thing that I am going to be taking advantage of in this update. So I hope it's important for some of you guys. The time code thing I know is good for some audio guys. Some guys have already left some comments, and that's good. I'm glad it's going to work for you guys. But my ZR, my Z-Red, hasn't changed much with the update. But good news is I put in the update and nothing crashed. So there's always a positive side, right? Okay, thumbs up, thumbs down. Be sure and subscribe if you like what I'm doing. I've got some other stuff I'm going to do while I'm here out in California. And I guess that's it. Take care.